Well, it's worse than I thought. At the opening bell, the U.S. stock market, its traders and brokers have voted on how they felt about all the whooping and hollering and cheering at the Rose Garden yesterday in a hermetically sealed world of Donald Trump. And they've decided they hated it. They hammered stocks and the stock market overall. The Standard & Poor is down 3.1%. The NASDAQ over 4%. Dow Jones in the same region. Individual stocks are worse. Apple down 8.5%. Nike down 13%. Oil down and hammered. All of the major tech segment, all the major financial segments that supported Donald Trump are in the crapper as of today. That includes tech. That includes Amazon, Apple, Meta, all those big stocks, the oil industry, the car manufacturing industry, the cryptocurrency industry and segment, all markedly down. So far down that traders now think the Federal Reserve are going to have to bail out the U.S. economy and make a rate cut sometime this quarter. I'm Michael Popok. You're on Legal AF. Let's get to Thursday morning, Black Thursday in America. These are the highest set of tariffs since the Smoot-Hawley Act in 1930. And you know what that did to the world economy? It cut it by 70%, spinning us deeper into a deep, dark depression. That's the role model, apparently, for Donald Trump. Now, he's got a whole bunch of people around him, none of which are economists. Let me point this out to you one more time. Do you know how most European countries and other nations who are our allies or our competitors in the world economy, they have an entire board of economists and national economic advisors? Donald Trump doesn't even refer to his national economic team. He doesn't even they weren't anywhere to be seen during this obscene press conference, worst in history, in the Rose Garden. Where were they? He loves bringing out Elon Musk. He didn't dare bring him out on this one. Where was the shout out to the economists that came up with the phony math to support the overall across the board 24% impact tax on the American consumer for every import from around the world? Where was that shout out? Yeah, where do I buy that bobblehead doll or that poster for my bedroom? Nowhere. And the major difference is, in terms of the talent arrayed around this president compared to Joe Biden. Joe Biden could turn to Janet Yellen. She was an economist. She was the chairman of the Federal Reserve. She was a Treasury secretary. But at core, an economist. Scott Bessent, Treasury secretary for Donald Trump, ran a hedge fund. Get in line, along with hundreds of other people in New York, including working for George Soros. Howard Lutnick, who I'm going to do a clip from next, Commerce Secretary, ran his own family office on Wall Street. Not an economist, graduated college, okay, ran a successful business for himself. I get it. That doesn't make him a macroeconomist. And then I did the report recently on the phony math that's being used to even set these. It wasn't set on any fundamental economic principle. It was set on, what's the trade surplus for us in the Ivory Coast? Okay, 102% tariff. Really? And once the economists around the world figured that out, they crashed our stock markets, their stock markets, and the dollar, the US dollar down over 3% at the opening bell. Here's what Lutnick had to say on Bloomberg television. I'll give you a clip in a moment. He said, if they retaliate, we're going to retaliate and raise the tariffs greater. That's a bully without a brain when it comes to macroeconomics. Other countries don't want U.S. corn and beef. We want them to take, is this like caveman? Is this what it is? We want them to take corned beef. We need them to do it. So we need a tariff. That's the thought process that's going behind this administration. He also said that 20% China tariffs would be dropped if they would stop making fentanyl. They got this thing about fentanyl. Listen, I'm all about stopping people dying from fentanyl in the United States, but why you're taxing and tariffing Canada to death over fentanyl? They're not even a major manufacturer of fentanyl, and fentanyl trade's not coming through Canada. That's a lie. It's just that when they're out of gas as an administration, they latch on to two terms. Biden, it was Biden. Biden did it. If they can't, and then sometimes Trump slips and says Obama, or fentanyl. It's fentanyl. It's fentanyl. Look, it's a major problem in America, I guess. But it's not something we need to warp our entire domestic world economy over. I thought they were all upset during COVID when we grounded the entire economy in order to resolve people that were dying from COVID. Now we're destroying the world economy because of fentanyl deaths. I'm sorry, I just don't understand it. And then you got Carolyn Levitt, the press secretary. She says, this is not an opening bid. We're not negotiating. The president was quite clear. We're going to be keeping these in place. At the same time, right next to her, Howard Lutnick is saying, we're talking to our trade partners today. So they're bargaining. It's called bargaining on Wall Street. The opening bell had a freak out. If it didn't freak out the people in the Trump administration and Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, and the Federal Reserve Chairman, Jay Powell, I don't know what would. It would be like if FDR stood in a press conference in the Rose Garden and immediately the Depression started 5 seconds later. It's that equivalent. It is worse than any economist had imagined. They are hammering the stocks of America, especially those that rely on global trade. Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Nikes, Apple, all the companies that poured money into the Trump campaign. I haven't even mentioned Tesla. Tesla may be bankrupt before the summer is over because of the hatred for Elon Musk and his stock. And his car products. So what we're going to do is let me play this clip of Howard Lutnick just so you see what I'm dealing with here, what we're dealing with here. This is who is supposed to be the steward of your money. Let's play the clip.
And Europe might be wondering this morning why they're being thrown into the same bucket as the Chinese. What explanation can you give them?
Europe does not treat our products fairly. They do not treat our companies fairly. They treat themselves incredibly well to the detriment of the United States of America, right? It is time for them to treat us fairly. And that is the point. It's not free and fair trade. Their tariffs are higher. The non-tariff trade barriers are incredible. Like, I'd ask you, why don't they take our beef? Why don't they take our agricultural products? Why? Because they don't want them, because they want to make the money themselves. Why is it okay for every other country to feel this way, and it's not okay for America? I tell you why. Because we were the world's piggy bank, and Donald Trump has said our $36 trillion deficit, our $1.2 trillion trade deficit, $1.2 trillion. We buy other people's things more than we sell them ours, has got to be rebalanced. It's a national emergency. Let's fix America, and we can.
That's today. Talk about living in a hermetically sealed world. They're also happy to be at the White House, get to wear their fancy suits and stand there and bring in some old retired union workers to start cheering. I know who's not cheering, the rank and file union members who just had their National Labor Relations Board destroyed, who just had their Merit Service Board destroyed. Donald Trump is the most anti-collective bargaining and labor president we've ever had. Nobody should be cheering in that Rose Garden. I don't even know what that was about. I thought that was like some sort of Nazi rally in the Rose Garden. Woo! Yeah, great. But now let's return to planet Earth and what brokers and traders and economists are doing to the American dollar and stock. Treasury rates cut as the traders put pressure on the Fed to cut the overall lending rate. Dollar in the crapper. Ladies and gentlemen, your president of the United States, Donald Trump. I'm going to continue to follow it right here on Legal AF. Come back regularly every day, every hour about what is going on with Liberation Day. Apparently, you're being liberated from your nest egg. You're being liberated from your paycheck. You're being liberated from your economic security. Thank you, Donald Trump. I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.